There's the old man talking at you again. Was another rant. Uh, if you notice the title of this video, you'll know that Are the Good Times Really Over for Good was a Merle Haggard song which was released in May of 1982. Now, here in 2022, that sounds like a long time ago, but really, it was very prophetic, however you want to say the word, for its time. It spoke about a lot of different things which we as Americans are seeing today, which we still saw back then. And we look around us nowadays, look at the high gas prices, groceries, the cost of groceries, electricity, everything is just skyrocketing. And we ask ourselves, are the good times really over for good? Because here in the United States, we have three types of people, three classes of people, I'll say. And the first and last are the extremes. You have the poor, and then you have the rich. And in between there is this group called the middle class. People who are not rich by a long shot, but they're not worried about sleeping out in the gutter. They got a roof over their head. They put money away for college for their kids, for retirement. And so they don't have to worry. Or do they? This is not a doom and gloom video. This is just basically my observations based on what this song said. One of the lines in the song says, when a Ford and a Chevy would still last 10 years like it should. This was in 1982. If you used to watch The Price is Right back in the 80s, they had this game where they had three prizes on a board and you had to put numbers. You had to pick numbers and they each correlated with one of the prizes. And one was a car, one was a washer dryer, one was just loose cash. The first digit in the car back in the 80s was 5. And there was only 4 digits. So a car was roughly around $5,000. Now, in this song, they talk about when a Ford and a Chevy would still last 10 years like it should, because once upon a time they used to businesses, when they made a product, it was made to last. And that's how they got repeat business, was because of the quality. People would hold on to, most people, the low class people, would hold on to an item, washer, dryer, or whatever, for 10, 15 years because it kept on working. And only when it started to have issues would they call a repair person or go ahead and buy another one. Many of the younger people today do not realize that, like in the early days of television, the stars of the show did live commercials for their products. And sometimes they even did little skits based on the characters they played in the show, like in I Love Lucy. The Ricardos, which was sponsored by, I Love Lucy was sponsored by Westinghouse. And they would show the Ricardos going in and trading in their dishwasher or refrigerator. And what they do is they always show the comparison. They showed the older model, and then they showed the newer model, which was, of course, bigger than the older model. And they would say how the newer model was cheaper than what the older model was. Well, you definitely don't see that today. And with the way businesses are going nowadays, how they save their margins, especially when you have policies like Joe Biden did with $15 an hour for minimum wage. I mean, here you are taking non-skilled labor jobs and putting them on the same level as people who are just starting out in skilled labor jobs. That's not right. I mean, they work to earn their skills, so they deserve that wage. So you have people who are making $12, $14 an hour flipping burgers. Those jobs were never intended to be long-term jobs. I mean, when I was growing up, people who held those jobs, if you were not a manager, people who held those jobs were high school kids, maybe college kids, and you had a handful of senior citizens who wanted a couple hours so they weren't sitting at home all day. And nowadays, you're paying some kid $15 an hour to flip a burger. It's not right. Yes, granted, people need to earn a living wage. But see, what happens is whenever you raise the minimum wage standard, businesses cannot afford to have that cut into their profits. So they cut it in other areas, which I was just talking about this with a friend of mine last night, that if you go into a restaurant, and a lot of times most people, you go in there, you can't finish whatever the meal is, and so you end up taking some home. Well, nowadays you might not have to do that because you're going to see an item which you have bought before in the past, which is probably, it's the same thing, the thing you've eaten for years. And the price is still the same. But if you look closer, the portion that they're giving you is smaller. That way, they're not cutting into their profits from having to pay people X amount of dollars. And it's not just that. Like I said, we've gone from quality to quantity. So used to be you'd get you'd have a couple, 2-year warranty on your refrigerator. Now it's like 90 days. It's like they know something's going to break, so they have to give it to them before it breaks down. That philosophy is not right. Just like in the movie Back to the Future, when the 1950s doc is trying to fix the DeLorean, and he looks at the part and he says, well, here's the problem, it's made in Japan. And Marty's reply is, well, all the best stuff is made in Japan. Well, this is just a few years after I grew up. And if you had anything from 50s, 60s, 70s was made in China, Taiwan, Japan, it was considered junk. And now, if you could even find anything made in America, I mean, the stuff made in America is considered junk nowadays. But these countries are mass producing this stuff because you had big business who decided it was cheaper for them to put their companies in foreign countries where it's basically slave labor, because what the people are making is basically peanuts, building shoddy products and then bringing it and selling it over here. I mean, that's all you see in Walmart these days. And which is funny because in the early days of Walmart, they used to say that you would only find things in that store which were made in America. Good luck nowadays doing that. If you ever see the show Shark Tank, and you get the so-called sharks, the investors, who are interested in a product, and you have the guy pitching the idea, and he says, well, he wants to put this in his town, so he can create jobs there. And right away, they're always trying to suggest taking their jobs overseas because they can do it cheaper. See, in my mind, cheaper is not always good. You get what you pay for. It's like, well, I used to say about Payless shoes because I used to go in there all the time because I worked in the restaurant business for many years. And, if you ever worked in a restaurant, going in and out of the kitchen, the grease on the floor. Okay, stuff gets dropped on the floor, gets mopped up, the floor is greasy. And get in there, and so especially when you're going in and out of the kitchen, in and out of the dish room, there's a lot of water on the floor, and if you never had that experience, you should. There's a lot of water, and it eats away at the bottom of your shoes. Well, what most people don't realize is on the heel, it's not solid. They're like little, if you look over a period of time, you will see that there are little squares which will pop up in your heel because your heel is basically hollow. And so I have my own motto for Payless, which has since gone kaput, is that you get what you pay less for. Because the shoes were cheap, but they didn't last. But what's this got to do with what's going on in our country today? Prices today are skyrocketing in everything. Food, rent, your electric bill, water bill. I have a friend of mine whose electric and water bill has just skyrocketed, and she's not using any more electricity or water than she had before. And they're trying to give some excuse, but it's just, in my mind, it's just not cutting it. We need to put these companies back in the United States. Give your workers a decent wage. Because if you think about it, that's all what the American people want. They want a wage that they can live off of. So big business needs to cut their profits down slightly and raise the wages up slightly. It's going to even out. And I'm not going to tell you if I'm for unions or against unions, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of history. If you've done any history in the American Industrial Revolution, you had men, women, and children who were working together in these factories for 16 hours a day for next to nothing wages. And that's when they started coming up with unions to protect the workers. That's why you have child labor laws now, so you cannot have young kids working in the factories like that, putting them in danger. That's where you have employees who are getting medical and dental and vision care now. The unions did that. But now there's also something the unions are doing as well, which is not so good, is that if they see companies are making X amount of dollars, then they think that they should share that wealth, and so the people want increases in pay. Well, number one, you already got the biggest thing is that you have a job. You're earning money so you can take care of all your needs. You're now getting, and this a lot of times depends on if you're full-time or part-time, but if you're full-time, you're getting your medical and dental benefits, your vision benefits. You have sick days, or as a lot of companies are doing now, you earn personal time off, so many hours per week. It's all, if you're doing that, you're fine. If you're not harping these people on a wage all the time, or raise all the time, because you see, oh, they're making more money, they're making this, and this. We need to have our share. Well, you already got your share. But think about it. If you shut up and just give it time, they will see, oh yeah, well, our workers are doing really great. Let's bump them up just a little bit. And it may not seem like a lot, but that little bit they give you helps a great deal. So the answer to the question of this video is, are the good times really over for good? And it's not really a yes or no answer. It doesn't have to be. If we work together, the good times can still last. But at the rate we're going right now, we're sinking. And something has to be done about it. Next time you listen to this song, if you've never heard that song, you need to listen to it. Merle Haggard, or The Good Times Really Over for Good. So when you listen to that song, and you look at where we are as a nation right now, what do you think we need to do